So we're about 2 months away from Black Ops 4's release, coming out October 12th. And of course, we get a beta. Now, you have to go out and pre-order it. Go figure, right? It's not a beta where they just let anyone join in. But when you pre-order it, you'll get a code, even if you do it digitally, and then you can try the game out, at least in its current state. Today, we're going to be talking about Black Ops 4 and the beta that's going on currently and my thoughts on it after about 10 hours. So I've been playing it for a while now, and I have a grasp on kind of how I feel about the game in its current state. This is a beta, and I have to imagine they're having this beta to help kind of shape the game going forward, as even like Call of Duty WW2 changed pretty heavily over its time, just even after release. So I'd like to think Activision and Treyarch are out there kind of looking around and kind of seeing what everyone has to say about this game, because there's a lot of opinion on this game, and it's something I expect, honestly, with some of the changes they've made and kind of the Call of Duty community. So let's talk a bit here about Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Oh, I also want to say this was technically a code that Activision sent over. They got a hold of me and asked if I wanted to check out the beta. So for disclosure, they did provide it. I didn't actually pre-order or anything. So when you start the game up, first thing you're gonna notice is once you jump into a match, because you have to get to level 5 before, of course, you can create a class and everything, you pretty much have a default class that they've made for you. And then you also pick different people, essentially, in the game, and they have different abilities. It's kind of, honestly, like a hero shooter type mechanic, where you have different people who can do different things, whether you have somebody who is basically an explosives specialist who has a grenade and then a grenade launcher as like their ultimate attack. You have people that can actually support with ammunition crates. You have people that can put down traps where they have barbed wire, and then you even have a guy who can shoot a grappling hook that helps you do something. Actually, it was a lot of fun to use him. He just wasn't super useful when I was playing, because when I'd use the grappling hook, it would get me to certain areas, then I'd wait a while for it to come back. And a lot of times you would just get killed while you're kind of zipping around, because people would just kind of pot shot until you're either almost dead or you are dead. But there are a bunch of different people you pick from, and they'll give you different abilities that you use alongside with any of your loadouts that you pick. And it's actually kind of neat. There are some that are very powerful in certain situations, whether you're doing capture, and then, oh look, there's the guy with the big gravity spike that hits the ground and wipes everybody who's trying to capture the point. There are people who are very powerful in certain situations. There's someone who can emit radiation and do damage and slow you down. Another great person for control or capture points. There are people you want to pick in certain situations, and I guess that kind of makes sense, but then they also feel kind of overpowered in certain game types, whereas other people, there's really no need to use them. Now, when you first start running around and you start actually hitting people and shooting people, you're going to notice how long it takes now to take somebody down. It's way different than Black Ops 3. I actually jumped back to Black Ops 3 after playing this for roughly my first 5 or so hours. We're going to talk about that a little later. The difference is drastic, though. We're talking about, seriously, several extra shots you need to put someone down, unless you are actually hitting them in the head, which, of course, the auto-aim for Call of Duty generally gravitates down to their chest level, and then you have to kind of fix it a little bit if you're actually going to get headshots. But it takes a while, and that's because everyone seems to have 150 health, and you can actually see that in the health bars above your enemies, which is actually pretty cool to have that, because you can see just how close you are to taking them down, or kind of where they are when when maybe your allies or someone is shooting them. You can kind of jump in and help out if they need help. And that is good, and I do see a lot of people right now frustrated with the time to kill being so much longer. But as somebody who really is a bigger fan of the Halo series, and I come over to this, I'm okay with it. But I do know there are people who are probably coming from, they're coming from even Advanced Warfare or obviously Black Ops 3, which is where a lot of people are going to come from. And it is a night and day difference. It is jarring how much longer it takes to wipe people, but not with certain weapons. This is something else we're going to get into a little later. There are some weapons, I think, specifically one, to be honest, that is a bit overpowered for this game. I do think the time to kill is mostly longer in this, probably so they can check it out, test it out. They'll probably play around with it, to be honest. At least I hope they would, based on feedback and everything. They might lower the health. I don't think they'll raise it. I actually think they'll raise it for one mode in particular, which is Blackout. We'll talk about that a little later as well. But I think they put it at 150 health just to see how people would react to it. Honestly, they could change that going forward, and we'll kind of see what they nerf and what they make stronger. But I do think that 150 health, at least I hope it will probably be different by the time the game comes out in October. And I guess the question is, how different is this from Black Ops 3? And The answer to that is not that different minus the time to kill. Honestly, a lot of the perks are the same. The weapons are pretty much the same. I look at this game, at least in its current form with the multiplayer, and I do ask, it was 3 years for this. It's amazing the turnaround that, like, you see Sledgehammer have with WW2, and then you see Treyarch put out Black Ops 4, and it's not that different. Honestly, it was, the only difference was how long it takes to take somebody down. I jumped over to Black Ops 3, and I felt like I was playing a similar game, minus, of course, the wall running and the booster jets and everything. And, of course, you have to heal yourself essentially with like a stim pack or a needle or whatnot, and kind of start your auto healing in Black Ops 4, which is a cool feature. It's neat to have that as kind of a part of strategy, but it's just, you press L1 and it happens in like a second or two, so it's not, again, you just have to kind of remember to heal, when to heal yourself, because even the cooldown's not that bad anyway. So you just kind of heal yourself, and it's really not, I jumped over and it was like, this feels so similar to Black Ops 4. You might be a little faster in Black Ops 4. That might be the only real difference, other than time to kill in that. Visually speaking, this is a beta, first of all, I want to say. So visuals and frame rate, I think, will also change or improve. Visually, this game isn't anything crazy looking. Seriously, I look at it and I go, okay. Some of the textures I thought forgot to load in at times, and I think those are just the textures. So this is a beta, and I have to assume that the visual style will get better, just in general. Frame rate, I think, will get better as well. The PlayStation 4 Pro seems to handle it a little better, but I did notice a lot of people, some I've even talked to, where they have like a base PS4, and the frame rate was iffy. It wasn't that great. The Pro, I did notice some drops, but it didn't seem as bad as what was being described to me in some footage I saw that other people had up. And I was a little surprised at some of their frame rates compared to mine. So if you have like a PS4 Pro, or I guess even like an Xbox One X at this point, I think that's going to have a better frame rate just overall. Even if they try to checkerboard up to 4K, which they probably will, it'll probably still get a better frame rate. I was a little surprised at some of the frame rates I saw though. But again, it's a beta. I'm not going to be too tough on them about the visuals, even though some of them look pretty muddy and not very good. Actually, I think Black Ops 3 looks better than this game, which is weird. And I won't be too tough on the visuals or the frame rate, because I think in a beta form, you have to at least wait for the final version of the game before you can judge it on graphics. The levels seem okay so far. They only have a handful that you play on right now, and they get the job done, but honestly, I really don't see any as being super memorable, at least right now. I'm sure as you spend more and more and more time on it, you'll start to remember them more and be like, okay, this is actually a really good level. But right now, there's definitely no Nuketown, there's no Standoff, there's no Crash, there's nothing that I look at and I go, oh yeah, that's going to be an iconic Call of Duty level. They get the job done, and they work, but there's nothing that I look at and go, this is really cool, there's a neat mechanic in this level, and I don't think these are obviously all the levels that we're going to have. I think there's going to be a lot more, but they might also look back, they'll probably grab other levels and bring them up and stuff, because they're iconic, but nothing yet when it comes to level design that's like stands out heavily. I was a little thrown off as well because grenades are not like readily available like we've had in the past. At least from a lot of the Call of Duties I would play, you would have the option obviously like flashbangs or frag grenades or any other kind. Nothing like, I believe you can unlock frag grenades down the line, but there's nothing readily available right away. And that's something else I've actually heard people while I'm playing the game kind of complain about, that they don't have grenades readily available. There's a class, actually the one that I would always play as, that actually has a grenade ready to go as one of their perks, and then their ultimate is literally a grenade launcher. But you don't just have grenades like around. You have to have them either as a perk that you unlock essentially, or an equipment that you unlock, or just a part of your class that you have, just kind of have grenades. That was a little weird as well, but I mean, maybe they wanted to cut down on grenade spam or just grenades being all over the place. However, I do think some people are going to point that out right away. They're just going to be like, where are my grenades? And I guess the weapons are good enough, but they're not, again, the weapons don't feel super powerful in this game, mostly because of that amount of health. Like, it seriously feels like you're shooting somebody with like a BB gun half the time, because it just takes so long to take them down. I mean, so there's probably like 6, 7, 8 shots sometimes in the chest to take them down, except for one class. And this is something that I've noticed whenever if I'm on Twitter and I see someone post up this awesome looking, like, they just wiped out 4 or 5 people, it's always with a sniper. And I think it's because right now, if you look in the descriptions and everything, the snipers, I think are too powerful in this game by a good margin. I don't remember it being like this every time in Call of Duty. WW2 was the one that I really liked that last year, and I don't even remember it being like that there. These sniper rifles seem overpowered in Black Ops 4's beta so far, mostly because of Call of Duty's massive auto-aim that obviously helps really on the PS4 and Xbox and everything, and it's always kind of helped, but it really helps in this game with the sniper, because it's one shot. Like, it seems like if it's above the waist, between the shoulders, obviously the head, it's one shot with the sniper, and there are some snipers where you can literally take people out right away, like boom, boom, boom. Meanwhile, it takes their SMG or assault rifle like 7 shots to take you down. It's very weird. There were a couple times where I'd get into a firefight with somebody, and I'm like, I'm pelting them with an assault rifle, and then they turn around and shoot me once the sniper, and I'm down. And I said, oh, a sniper, change over the sniper, and all of a sudden, yeah, you're taking people out pretty easily. That might be something they want to look into, whether it's time between shots are extended, or maybe it's harder to aim. Maybe they tone down the auto-aim a bit on the sniper rifle. Just something they can do to nerf those a bit, because right now they seem extremely powerful. I look at this and I go, man, I can't believe it took 3 years for this. And it gives me hope for Blackout, because I have a feeling they are chasing that Battle Royale trend, go figure, right? And then I looked at Zombies, and I said, okay, Zombies looks like it's more fleshed out than ever. No pun intended, Zombies flesh. But I look at that and I say, okay, they probably put more time into that, and I have to imagine Blackout is like going to be their big mode that has a lot to it, and it's really big, and it's going to, set the Battle Royale, genre on fire and everything, but we'll see. We still need to try that. The only thing we've really played so far is, to me, an upgraded version of Black Ops 3 in terms of, I guess, just the mechanics and everything, so we'll see about this. So far, it's gonna be the best-selling game of the year. Black Ops is gonna sell just because of the name itself. But I'm looking more at Battlefield and saying, okay, I might be more interested in Battlefield at this point, because we know Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is going to have the loot crates. It's going to have, well, it's at least going to have microtransactions with its currency, which probably leads to loot crates. It's going to have a season pass. There's a lot of things working against it already, and now we see it's not that different from Black Ops 3. But Blackout is what I'm holding out hope for, because I think that can actually be a really cool mode if they do it right. So far with the multiplayer, though, I'm not very impressed, and I don't really see a massive jump, to be honest, from Black Ops 3. But those are my thoughts, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about the beta so far, what you think, kind of where you fall. Maybe you love the beta, maybe you think some of the changes are great, maybe you don't like the changes, or maybe you're kind of in my camp where you can't see a massive difference between that and Black Ops 3, just in terms of just the overall game. Let me know, guys, down below. Make sure you like the video if you liked it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys in the next video.